What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm BLAIDEN Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, in Matthew Spawnhour and THEO Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today, as prior to the November 1st trade deadline, we're going to be going over some pretty big trade rumors and trying to decipher where a lot of these players could be going, if anywhere at all. And of course, we will do the game of the week and the Stay Hot locks. But before we get into that, Matt, THEO, how are you guys doing today?
I'm all right.
I've spent the last 24 hours, like, the content I've made is watching the Packers and Buccaneers offenses and Emmanuel Acho content. So I'm frazzled. I'm beaten down.
Theo's not doing too hot.
I'm not.
It's okay.
How
I had to take a
doing,
chem
Lloyd?
exam today, and
how was that?
it was brutal. I can't lie. I hate chemistry. Like, I hate chemistry, bio, physics, any science. I hate it. I like computers and math. So
I don't blame you.
Says the computer science major.
software
We got
engineering
him.
major,
Oh,
actually.
damn it. I was close.
Oh, you thought you got me.
I
You
thought
thought
I
you
had
got
him.
me.
I thought I had him
Here's the
trapped
thing.
in
I
a
was
big
ready.
lie.
I was ready for that. It's like I was
That's
just ready
basically
for
computer science. That's
No,
the
it's
same
not.
thing.
it. No, it's not.
Nope, that's the same thing.
No,
Tell me the
it's
difference. You can't.
No, I can. A computer science major, they usually end up getting the same job, but the coursework is a little bit different. The job that they usually end up getting is software
You
engineer.
just said it's the same. You literally just said that.
But the coursework that you usually get as a software engineering major leans more onto project management, as opposed to you get a lot more technical work in computer science.
Okay, fair enough. Whatever. You're still wrong though.
Well, we actually just hit 21,000 subs on YouTube, which is kind of crazy. We're decently on track for it, but I think our goal at this point is to get 30K by the new year. So for all of you watching, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube already, make sure you help us get to 30K by the end of 2022 and going into 2023.
We are not hitting that.
Find one of my all 22. Find the Tom Brady washed video and send it to all your friends. Okay, let's do a pyramid scheme, a chain mail.
Pyramid scheme.
Yeah, if you send it to three of your friends and get them to send it to
this.
three of their friends, and then they send it to three of their friends, then you will be handsomely rewarded for everyone you get to subscribe. And yes, we will. That is not a pyramid scheme.
That's not a pyramid.
Yes,
It's just a multi-level.
it's just multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
But yes, go check that out if you haven't, and send it to all your friends and have them send it to their friends.
And the consensus is that Tom Brady is washed, I assume, Theo, right? Or do we have to watch the video?
It felt weird. I defended Tom Brady for the first time, I think, ever. I had to step up to the plate and say that Tom Brady is not washed. He's actually, I think, playing quite well this season still. Yes.
Okay.
And Rodgers, to some degree, is playing okay too. I think Brady is playing better than Rodgers. Well, now you don't even have to watch the video. Well, I'm just giving it away.
Or maybe I don't.
Yeah.
Or
Maybe he's lying. Maybe
I'm
lying
lying
through his teeth right now. And they're both playing like hot garbage. And
I
Daniel
buried a
Jones
secret.
is
I buried a secret treasure somewhere, and at some point in the video, I give you the coordinates. Go check it out.
the coordinates.
Yes.
It's like in Minecraft, you find like a treasure map in a sunken ship.
Yes.
But let's hop in. NFL trade deadline right around the corner, November 1st. That's actually the same day I schedule my last semester of classes. Crazy. But first on the chopping board is Cleveland Browns running back Kareem Hunt.
So we're talking about
we'll
we're just talking
Browns
about all the
talk.
guys who are on the trade block and have been rumored and such.
Pretty much. I mean, we might as well get the Browns out of the way first so that we don't talk about them for the rest of the episode, right?
Here's my hot take about Kareem. I don't think he's worth a 4th round pick for 10 games. A running back and here's the thing, any day 3 pick, people are like, whatever, who cares? But like a 4th round pick could be like pretty serious pick. And I understand, Kareem Hunt's a good player, but for 10 games of a running back, that can still be steep. No, I guess it depends on the team. Like the Eagles probably like wouldn't care, but still.
No, it's steep. I mean, James Robinson is like 10 games of running back, and he just went for a 6 and a 5th.
Right.
So I think that Kareem Hunt, you're probably getting something similar there, a 6th or a 5th or maybe even a 7th. And I don't know. I just don't know about all these running backs because Cam Akers is on the block. Christian McCaffrey already went. It's just, I think that Hunt is probably the best one left. James Robinson is a void that's already filled. But like, there's just not a whole lot of landing spots that like 10 games of a running back just isn't very valuable. It wouldn't surprise me to just see him stay put. If he does get moved, the Dolphins are a team where I think look like an obvious team that could use a back because they have been abysmal at picking up yards after contact and making guys miss this year, and they are somewhat contenders. So they're a team that I kind of think about as a potential running back destination, but I'm not totally sure that that'll happen at all.
Is Buffalo not on your radar at all?
No, it's not on my radar at all. Just because, and I get why it could be, and I thought about it just because when the Jets had like Michael Carter as their lead back, like I like Michael Carter, but Michael Carter is your lead back. Like he's not really built like that. And it's kind of, he's kind of built like Devin Singletary, I think. I don't think that those two are like very different players. I think that you could comp them for each other. And the Jets just made a move. And, why can't the Bills make a move? Their running backs have been bad. But they just invested that second in James Cook, man. And it's just a tough pill to swallow to do that. Have, Singletary and also bring in another back. And like maybe it would be worth it, but I don't know. If I were the Bills, I just don't think I would mess with things the way they are right now, unless you could bring in someone like Christian McCaffrey for like a 4th or maybe a 3rd, but that the 49ers blew that value out of the water. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like investing that many picks in running backs. Maybe if it's Kareem Hunt for like a 7th, okay, I guess I wouldn't hate it, but I like to the Dolphins more.
I think that it's Hunt, and then I kind of don't see anyone else you can really trade for. Cam Akers is just not good. He just can't play. And I don't know if you saw that. The Panthers got an offer from the Rams, which was the exact same offer they got from the 49ers pick-wise, except the 4th round pick was next year instead of this year, and they got Cam Akers. So basically the exact same thing, and they just said no to it. They just didn't take it because they just did not want Cam Akers. And I don't think – I mean, he's running for like 3 yards a carry. I understand the Rams' offensive line is not good, but if he wasn't a 2nd round pick, nobody would even be thinking about him as like a possible, trade opportunity guy. Yeah,
I agree. I don't think he'll get. It would be wonderful, like maybe to get a fresh start and see what he could do behind a better offensive line. But yeah, I wouldn't want my favorite team to trade for Cam Akers. So yeah, I agree. I don't know if Kareem Hunt will go to the Dolphins just because I think of like the type of running back that they like. Like Kareem Hunt runs a 4.6, and that offense is all built on speed. It's speed. Raheem Mostert is fast. Right. There's a little crease. He's exploding through it, and he's picking up a chunk game. He may not be able to break any tackles, but that element of burst and that element of speed and being able to get to the edge quickly, they may value that in a running back more than they value the superior footwork and contact balance that Kareem Hunt offers and what makes him so good.
Yeah, Kareem is very quick in his movements, but I don't know. I think he
doesn't
looks
have long
fast.
speed.
He looks faster on screen though. When he hits the hole, he hits it power. Like he hits it hard. Like it's not like he's slow to contact or anything.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's bad
I think you do value that the breaking tackles and contact balance. Like that's something you don't have at all. I think that's something that you do have to value a little bit. I almost wonder. We talk about what are these guys worth pick wise? You're like, the Bills won't trade him because they got James Cook. Why isn't there the option of like you just trade James Cook? you just put James Cook in a trade offer. It's James Cook and Kareem Hunt, and then whatever pick package you see fit, or maybe it's Kareem Hunt and Cam Akers. The Browns and Rams just said, "Fuck it, let's swap." You put Kareem Hunt, who can break tackles and make plays for like outside of the offensive line, behind the Rams' offensive line, and then you give Cam Akers somewhat of a fresh start in Cleveland, backing up Nick Chubb.
Well, don't say anyone's going to back up Nick Chubb other than you know who. But I think with like
Jerome Ford,
I think you're missing the contracts. It's like with Cook, yeah, he hasn't been great so far, but like trading him for a guy who is not going to be going to just be an unrestricted free agent in 10 games is like just punting on a 3rd round pick if you're the Rams, or not the Rams, if you're the Bills, like after 7 games. And I just don't see them doing that. It's not good value, although I do think it'd be a nice upgrade for them. If anything, I do think the Rams are more likely.
It was a 2nd round pick even. It was pick number 63. It was at the end of the 2nd round
pick.
Yeah, it was even a 2nd.
So I do have a hard time seeing them doing that. With the Rams, I mean, I think Cam Akers is just going to end up getting released or traded for like a conditional 7th. So I mean, the Panthers could have gotten him for the value of like waiting a year on a 4th round draft pick, and they said no. I mean, that's
the
pretty
Panthers
telling.
said no.
And it's like not like the Panthers have some like great running backs or anything. They probably have some of the worst running backs in the league right now, though I don't think Hubbard and
I actually like Foreman. I think Foreman's
pretty good. I like Foreman.
I like Foreman.
He had a big run, so God bless him. But I don't know. I wouldn't spend that much on Hunt. I think the Rams, if any team is going to spend a lot on a running back, the Rams, I feel like obviously have proven they do that. They need a back. I don't know if Cam Akers is part of that deal. I'm not considering him too strongly, or he's not going to go be a lead back like Hunt can. But my guess wouldn't be Miami. It would be LA.
They are not shy about spending picks on running backs. You're right. And one more thing about your proposed trade, Blaiden. Like, I think the Browns, like, they just have too many running backs. Like, they shouldn't want another running back back. Like, half the point is to get some breathing room, because you've got Dearness Johnston, who is a proven, I think, good starter. Honestly, his vision was really impressive when he played last year, and he was crazy efficient behind that line. Like, if Dearness Johnson is your backup, you feel good about that. And then you've got Jerome Ford as the 3rd string, who balled out in the preseason. So it's like, they shouldn't be looking for a running back in return. You know, it shouldn't be like bad running back swap. It's like, get a pick, get something. It's just like, you can get Kareem Hunt, like, you could just get some breathing room for everybody else and kind of stoke the fire a little bit for some of the other backups. So yeah, I think that that might be right, the Rams, because I do think that Miami kind of has that maybe that emphasis on being able to get to the sideline extremely quickly, but the Rams, they don't quite have that emphasis. And that McVay tree, like the Shanahan tree, they just love giving picks for running backs. All of them love doing it. 2nd round, like LaFleur will send a 2nd on AJ Dillon. I mean, Shanahan himself is at a completely different level. Like they love bringing in all these running backs. They love it. So yeah, that wouldn't shock me. The
only thing I will say is Kareem Hunt did request a trade over the offseason, and the Browns pretty quickly turned it down. But I think the biggest incentive for the Browns to get rid of Kareem Hunt isn't to free up space for Dearness and Ford, but this is the last year on his contract. You don't want to have to extend him, because he's going to want I think he's going to want RB1 money, and I would not be willing to pay him that. So I would rather
it just doesn't make for them to.
I would rather just get assets back as soon as.
And they also have good running backs behind him, but like at the same time, the Browns are not a team that wants to go like, okay, let's see if Sony Michel has anything. They got 2 guys behind Chubb who it's like they've got something. We'd rather just play our guys. So I don't know. I don't see where Michel or not Michel. I don't see where
Cam Akers
fits in. But maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Fair.
I always like it. I hope he goes somewhere and just ruins someone's fantasy. I think that's always so funny. I hope he goes to Eagles and like all the like.
We have Miles Sanders on our team.
We have Miles Sanders, Todd. Come on.
But I always love seeing just the fantasy, like after the after the Christian McCaffrey trade, all of them like in shambles because like Elijah Mitchell isn't relevant anymore. At this point, I just enjoy watching them like just freak out about like just mid players who are getting opportunity, like not getting opportunity anymore. Not that Miles Sanders is mid. I like Miles Sanders, but that's my main goal. I hope he goes somewhere and it's just completely fantasy irrelevant and it just throws a wrench in everything. And I'm trying to think of where that would go. Like, not Dameon Pierce, but like if he got traded to like Houston or something, everyone would just be in shambles. It would just be chaotic. It wouldn't be a good move, but I always kind of...
I was going to say, we have Dameon Pierce too.
We have Dameon Pierce too. I just want our team to be in shambles. I don't know. I just always think that's funny.
How can I screw up the Stay Hot fantasy league?
Just go somewhere completely fantasy, like irrelevant, and everybody is just like, like I live for those days. Like you say, Matt, like what would make Twitter the most mad? I kind of root for that a little bit sometimes.
Send him to Tampa Bay. This will
that's
do
a great
absolutely
idea.
Nothing.
I hate Leonard Fournette. Well, he would ruin ASU legend Rachaad White, but Leonard Fournette is the worst running back in football. I am convinced. He has no burst. He has no twitch, no wiggle. He's not actually a good receiver. It's just Tom Brady throws to running backs a lot. That guy is the biggest fantasy merchant in the whole league, as I've said on this podcast before.
Someone's gonna
Kareem Hunt is easy.
Fournette after this episode drops.
Do it. That would be mean. I hate when I say something mean about a player, then someone tags them. It's like, come on, man. Like we're just having fun amongst ourselves, and you're just gonna have to go ruin it. But I would like. Rachaad White should be starting there, as far as I'm concerned. But
Kareem Hunt to Tampa is that would be kind of nice.
Well, same deal with the Bills. Rachaad White was just a second round pick. Like the main problem, if you're going to give up picks, get it for a left guard, because Luke Gadecki and the guy who I think he just got benched for or replaced with, like they're probably not good. So like that's your real problem, is the fact that Jensen is gone, Marpet is gone.
Trading their guards, I fear. That is the one thing.
I mean, not they don't need to trade for Joel Bitonio or Quinn Nelson, but like trade for someone who's not number 60. Dude, like trade for someone who's not number 67. Jeez, if you're going to trade for anyone, if you're the Buccaneers. That was my main takeaway from watching their offense. But who's the next player?
You talk about guys that could just mess up fantasy teams. Where can Elijah Moore go? That would just destroy someone's fantasy hopes and dreams.
Like the Rams and Van Jefferson kill the Van Jefferson agenda for Matt.
He's gonna get benched for Van Jefferson, I'm afraid. So, I mean, what's the obvious team that needs a receiver? Do you think Green Bay will pull the trigger on a guy, or do you think they're just going to?
They want to. Here's my theory about Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, and I talk about this on the. I'm just giving away the video today. You don't have to watch it anymore. Just listen to You're listening to the podcast. That's good enough.
Theo's cannibalizing his own views.
Aaron Rodgers does not. This is always the problem. Rodgers does not like new, inexperienced receiver. He is built so much on chemistry. Like he can turn all of these second round picks into Jordy Nelson, like 1,500 yards. He'll turn a second round pick. Devontae Adams looks terrible his first 2 years in the league. He might get traded for a fifth in other teams, but Rodgers, like eventually, if you start to figure it out in this culture, in this system, like it happened to Cobb, second round pick. Nothing his rookie year, second year it was good. Adams took 2 years, third year it's good. Jeudy 4 years until he like actually had like legitimate like value as a wide receiver and was really contributing. Like it takes a long time for Rodgers to actually trust these guys and like these guys. And if you can gain his trust, you can be one of the best wide receivers in football. But I think part of the reason why they just don't spend first round picks on these guys is like they're just not. You want an immediate impact from a first round pick, and that just doesn't happen with Aaron Rodgers. Like it just does not. So bringing in another young receiver, and Elijah Moore would be better than I think a lot of the wide receivers on the team. I do think that he is. I don't think he's a featured number one, but he's probably a better number two than the guys we have alongside Allen Lazard. You know, he catches, he's got good hands, I think. At least that's what I'm going mostly off his college scouting report here. I know he's had some bad drops in the NFL, but like I know he's got a natural catcher of the ball, some sticky hands. I know that he's kind of a crafty and nuanced route runner with some juice. So like he would be a good guy to bring in, but I just don't know if I trust Rodgers to just like, oh, we've got this guy, bang, like he finished the year with 700 yards the rest of the way. Like bang, he's averaging 60 or 70 yards a game. Rodgers is probably just going to get pissed at him for not knowing the playbook like instantly. And you're going to see the same situation with any of these young players. So I don't know. That's my problem with bringing in a quarterback. If you're the Packers, it's just like, I don't know if Rodgers is capable of just meshing with a guy that quickly, because we've never really seen it, and they've never really tried to do it. They've never really brought in a free agent wide receiver and had him make an impact year one. We've never really seen him draft a guy early and have him make an impact year one, but they're going to trade for a guy and he's going to make an impact in the middle of the season. So I don't know how I feel about the Packers actually making that move. They do need a good wide receiver, but like if you're going to trade for one, I'd prefer they go all in on a guy who I think is a little bit more of a proven game changer than Elijah Moore. Like if DJ Moore is available, or I don't think he is. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's not. So I don't know. That's my feeling on Elijah Moore to the Packers. It's like, I just don't know what kind of impact any of these wide receivers will have right away. And it would be kind of a move for right now. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, if I think of a team right now that, could really use a boost, I think of Tennessee. They're kind of in control of the division a little bit. Like they're in first place, but to really pull away, because this division is going to be close the whole way through. I think adding, without Treylon Burks, adding kind of a better route runner, someone that can kind of create some separation, because you don't really have anyone there. It's like Robert Woods, who's a good blocker, but you don't really have anyone with any nuance in that receiving room right now.
You got Kyle Phillips, their rookie slot receiver.
That is true. They do have Kyle Phillips. Elijah Moore is probably a little bit better than him, though.
Yes.
I don't know. Tennessee makes a little bit of sense to me, but you talk about teams that need offensive line, bro. I mean, they could use some help they could use some help up front too.
Man. Here's the thing, though. If you go trade for Elijah Moore, because you made this whole like asset play with A.J. Brown, right? You go trade for Elijah Moore, you're basically taking the L on that immediately. You're basically saying, nope, we actually have not saved assets doing this. And I don't know. I just they messed up not keeping Brown. They should have paid him. They got scared of these big contracts, and he's worth the money. Burks hasn't been all that great yet.
And he's hurt right now still. Isn't he out for the season?
No, he is turf toe. He should be back at some point this season. But I think they could definitely still use some more bodies in that wide receiver room. I don't know. The Ravens are another team I think you've got to talk about when it comes to adding a wide receiver. I know that we've kind of like scoffed at that idea a little bit just because of all the wide receivers who have ended up being frustrated with the way they use wide receivers, and it just never seems to be a system that produces like amazing play from them. But I don't know. I see like number 10 out there, and I'm like, who are you, dude? But at the end of the day, I don't think the Jets are trading Elijah Moore, and they've come out and said that they're not. They're just like, they're disappointed at the fact that they even have to do this, it seems like, and they've just like benched him until they can work something out. But for them to be 4-0, and I guess they just won without Elijah Moore, but it wasn't exactly a great offensive output. I think they're hoping Zach Wilson can turn it around and actually be good enough to sustain good wide receiver play at some point. And when that, or if that day comes, you would like to have Elijah Moore on the roster because he's a good player. And I think that they're just they're just hoping that as they keep winning and maybe the team will keep improving, Elijah Moore it'll kind of work itself out. I think that's kind of the stance they're taking for the rest of the season. And I don't think they want to make a move prematurely when I think they feel like the situation could potentially be salvageable. So I don't think he's going to get moved. If he was, I wouldn't hate that. I think he's a good player. He's kind of like he reminds me a little bit of Jahan Dotson, who just went like 16th overall. I know that he went in the second round. Like he's a little bit small, but like he's a nuanced guy. He won in the outside, at least in college. I have my doubts about how good they could be on the outside in the NFL, but like they're crafty and they have good hands. And as a slot receiver, at the very least, I definitely think he can be a nice part of a receiving core. Seattle is another team that I like for him.
Interesting.
Like they have the two.
I was about to say, right? They already have they got some guys.
They have
there.
2, but the depth is questionable. Marquise Goodwin is wide receiver 3 right now. Okay, like they drafted D. Eskridge.
Good game.
He just had a good game. He's also like 30-something-year-old speedster. Like if you could get Elijah Moore and have a legit slot wide receiver under contract for the next couple of years and a passing offense that's been a pleasant surprise, I think he could be a nice piece, and that can make that receiving core really good. Because if like DK just went out on the cart, I think he's fine. I think he's just using the cart like his like a valet parking or whatever. I don't know.
At this point,
it's like smiling and laughing coming off the field on the cart. This is like twice now. But like if Lockett were to go down, like then it's just DK. Or if DK were to go down, it's just Lockett. You know, like add another quality wide receiver to that mix, and I think you could be cooking. They've got good tight ends. They've got 2 good wide receivers, but they could use some more depth. And if you can get Elijah Moore, who I think works better as a depth piece on a cheap deal, that might be a place that I like for him.
The Ravens absolutely should not trade for a receiver. under no circumstances. It is that's just like they need another no, they don't. Rashad Bateman is getting like 4 targets a game. Who they just do not throw the ball. They throw it 25 times a game, and half of those are to Mark Andrews. They have invested in receiver. They don't throw the ball. They've given up the first. Duvernay's pretty good. Mark Andrews is getting paid. That's 3 guys right there. Other than that, they just do not throw it. I mean, if you add it, I mean, and Elijah Moore, I feel like it's going to be like you're not getting him for peanuts. He's a good player.
No, yeah,
and
obviously they traded a 2nd-round pick for him. They're not going to want to like ship him off for a 5th-round pick at this point. No, or a 4th round. It's day 2. It might be a 3rd and a 5th or something like that, or a 2nd. But yeah, you're right. It would be a day 2 pick at least.
So I look at the Ravens like passing offense. I don't think it's a receiver thing. I just don't. So I would say that they shouldn't do that. Or like with deep people, like they should trade for DJ Moore. No, they shouldn't. No, they absolutely should not. Even if he was available, which he's not, they shouldn't trade for DJ Moore.
Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it because I would like to see Lamar with a better outside wide receiver, just like a really good one at some point in his career, just to see what it looks like. But yeah, they just don't have a very creative passing attack. They have a very creative rushing attack, but like I do think that it's kind of a little bit of a scheme problem when it comes to that. So we'll see what Greg Roman can do. And the offense hasn't been horrible this year, so I don't think they should, I guess, fire him. But I don't know. I like more to Seattle, I guess.
Seattle is interesting. Like I didn't even think about that as a possibility just because of DK and Lockett. The one thing I do have a concern with is I remember we were watching preseason. We're like, man, Geno's kind of making some nice throws, but it seems like sometimes him and the receiver aren't on the same page, or it's a lot of drops. I worry that a lot of the success that we're seeing could just be like, it's just confidence in chemistry. And if you bring in someone new, you don't have that. That would be the
you have to bring in someone new eventually. And this is true of the Packers too. You know, like the thing about the Packers is their window seems to be like this season. And I just don't know if they can get the timing right, because Rodgers, it matters I think it clearly matters so much that like, well, will it help the window now? With Seattle, like, I mean, they're not in a year where they have to win the Super Bowl right now. And I guess like maybe this doesn't make sense because the Packers have to, and they need more talent at wide receiver. But so I don't know. They got to do something, I guess. But with Seattle, I wouldn't be concerned like if there's some growing pains, just because their timeline is longer. And I guess with the Packers, you may need to just like throw some talent at the problem and say like, well, there might be growing pains, but we got to do something. Like I wouldn't hate like that's probably,
you have to say that you tried. Like
you have to say that we tried, right? I'm just wondering if like eliminating helping the rookies along would honestly be more helpful than bringing in a new guy is kind of where my head's at. But yeah, I like, and it's preseason, there's miscommunications in preseason are probably because it's preseason more than the fact like the wide receivers have, like he's throwing to guys who are no longer on the roster. It wasn't like, right. DK does it or I don't know.
Right, that's like
that's
you brought DK
valid.
and Lockett in. It's like, they clearly they're on the same page. They know what they're doing with each other.
I think pretty easily the number one team that should trade for a receiver is the Giants.
Yes,
and the excuse that they've they've invested a lot and it hasn't, was like, well, you can't just be bad at receiver. That's not an option in the NFL. And they are. Right. Do you know who their leading receiver is right now?
Is it that Richie guy, Richie James?
Richie James.
Richie James.
Or no, or is it Bellinger? Is Bellinger number 2?
Possibly. I'm just glancing at ESPN real quick. He's got 191 yards. I mean, anybody at this point. And we know Elijah Moore is good. If you could get him for a 3rd and a 5th, I would do that in a heartbeat if I was the Giants. I'd do a 2nd, honestly. Just get someone is solidly good. Because right now, it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You'll have to do it eventually. Like Galladay's not going to be in the long-term plans of the team. Obviously, as soon as that dead cap is like manageable, they're going to cut the guy. Tony has been like, even if Tony, like for whatever reason, like miraculously, like becomes healthy for a long stretch of time, like you can have another wide receiver alongside Tony. Like you need more than just him, even if he is healthy, and he's not. So you're 7-1 or 6-1 or whatever it is. And I think it's 6-1, and you have no wide receivers. Like add a receiver, see what you can do. I completely agree, Matt. Like their timeline is weird because I truly do think, like obviously with my prediction, I thought this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, right? Like you want to get assets, because you're just trying to evaluate Daniel Jones, you're trying to evaluate all these guys, you're trying to develop these guys, but all of a sudden it's 7-1, like. Why not get some more proven talent on the roster and see what you could do in the playoffs? The Bengals, I mean, look at what the Bengals did. So yeah, I don't hate that idea at all. In this NFC, is it crazy to think they could beat the Eagles? Is it crazy to think they could beat the Eagles like in a one-time game? I think it's not crazy to say that at this point. Anything can happen. Like might as well give it a weird run of it.
Look, it's no secret I care about my health. I mean, how else could I keep up this absolutely killer physique? Well, let me tell you about a product that I use every single day. I started taking AG1, just because I like to go to the field, spend time with my friends. Yeah, I got to keep up with my schoolwork and watching sports. It's all important to me, so I really have to keep my body at peak health. And with just one scoop of AG1, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day the right way. This delicious blend of ingredients supports gut health, boosts your immune system, nervous system, energy recovery, focus, and even aging. For me, I just throw a scoop in, a glass of water before I start my day, because I feel like it just gives me that boost of energy I need to keep on going. The boost to mental clarity and alertness is really why over 7,000 people have given Athletic Greens a 5-star review. And if you're like me, on a college student's budget, you get all of this for less than $3 a day. And right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/stayhot. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/stayhot to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
The Eagles just traded for Robert Quinn.
What?
Wow. That's
perfect.
That's
they just
surprising.
traded for Robert Quinn.
I did not think the Bears were we didn't even have that on the rundown because I just didn't think the Bears were going to do it. Just straight up.
I think it makes a lot of sense for Chicago.
You were wrong.
I think it makes a lot of sense for Chicago because like they traded away Khalil Mack this year. they, they should cut some fat from the team from a veteran standpoint, but yet they still had this like 33-year-old edge rusher who just had 18 sacks like on the roster that they could get more assets for. Like Robert Quinn is not going to be a quintessential part of the Justin Fields era. Like he had a nice season last year, a really nice season. 18 sacks is crazy, but he's someone that historically has been up and down in his career when it comes to, the sack rate. And he's someone that he's not really, it's not Von Miller out here, even though he had that crazy season last year. He's someone that you can move on from. So they need a ton of help on the offensive side of the ball. Robert Quinn is not in your long-term plans. Like perhaps there's a deal to be made here. I was a little surprised when they didn't move him this offseason. This makes a lot of sense. And Matt, I thought, what was your theory that the Eagles tried to trade for Brian Burns? Was that your prediction? I think it was. This gives some credence to that. Yeah.
And I think it's a 4th round pick. That's it. Because that's what he got sent for. I always think that's funny. People expect like Madden trades. Like what I don't know. I think a 4th round pick for Robert Quinn is probably like,
he has one sack this season.
It's about right.
Yeah. He led the league last year. So
he's 32 and has 1 sack in 7 games. It's like, I
mean,
I think it'll be good. I like the trade for the Eagles, but like this idea, I don't know. Some people just get the idea. It's like, how is it not a first? How is it not a second? It's like money and age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Eagles are still a little bit of an old, maybe that might not be true. One second. Let me look at the Eagles depth chart real quick, because they have so many players on their front 7. I always forget who's there.
They do have like Fletcher Cox is pretty old at this point. They have, what was it? I'm like totally Brandon Graham still there, right?
Yes.
I'm like totally blanking on like all of their defensive linemen. Hassan
They've
Reddick,
got so
Brandon
many
Graham,
of them,
Fletcher
dude.
Cox, Javon
Josh
Hargrave.
Sweat. I think it's so funny. Last season in the playoffs, they could not pressure Tom Brady. They could not pressure him. The edge rushers were the front 7 was just bad, and Brady had all day to throw. And then the Eagles were like, never again. We're going to trade we're going to have so much depth. We're going to have Reddick and Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat, and we're going to have Jordan Davis and Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, and we're just going to rotate the whole game. Everyone is always going to be fresh. We've got all these guys who like have a bag, who have moves, and we're never going to throw a stale edge rush out there in the playoffs again. Like they were like, that was more than Jalen. And like with Jalen Hurts, they watched Jalen Hurts struggle and like throw over the middle of the field. And they're like, we are going to get like the best band coverage. We're going to get someone who was so good over the middle of the field, maybe the top wide receiver in like passer rating when targeted in breaking routes, and AJ Brown. They're like, we have these problems, and God damn it, we are going to plug these holes. Like we know the problem, and I don't care. Like, so it's extremely aggressive. It's fun to see. Again, I think everything that the Eagles do, you can watch that Bucs game and understand why. Like that is the thing. Like those exposed what they need to fix. And they were like, we're not going to replace the quarterback. We are going to fill all the other holes and see if that, and we're going to do that instead. Because those are, I guess, were your two options. Is like, okay, the quarterback played badly. Either we can just try to get the new quarterback, or we can try to like cover up all of his weaknesses with amazing players. And they chose the latter.
They're the last undefeated team. They're the last undefeated team.
Far.
And they're still going to have assets to get a better quarterback if they see that as a necessity.
Howie Roseman's cooking, man. One thing you cannot say about Howie Roseman is like he flips over every stone. Okay, there's some like Olympic sprinter from Oregon who used to play football. Let's bring him in here to play wide receiver. Jordan Mailata is a rugby player, but he's 6'8". Like, let's give him a shot. Let's fill these voids with like, let's get 4th round picks for depth. Let's take these chances. Let's take these contracts. Like, he is not gun shy. He is not gun shy.
But not only he just hits. He just hits on everything.
There's one thing that he didn't hit on that comes to mind, but outside of that, he's one of the more active GMs in the league. And when you're active and you're good, you get this, and it's been a great product so far. So I don't hate the move for the Eagles. I don't know what he's going to do, but just more guys, throwing more guys at that defensive line rotation, and maybe he has even more juice off the edge when he's only playing like half the snaps, because that's probably what will happen. Maybe even less than half the snaps. But if you can get some high level reps on 40% of the plays that you were getting before, like perfect. So
they were. I mean, Matt, you thought they were going to trade. You thought they were the guys trying to trade for Brian Burns. Where does that leave Brian Burns at this point?
They're probably not going to trade him, would be my guess. I don't really know. If they really turn down 2 seconds, no one's offering more than that for two firsts. I meant, right. I don't think anyone's going to offer more than that for Brian Burns, or maybe they're just like, it's always hard to tell with negotiations. I don't know if they're just trying to drive up the price and they really want to move him, but unless Kansas City comes in as like, we have to go all in right now, right this second, go for it.
My guess was Kansas City made the original trade. That was I kind of thought it may have been Kansas City who traded the 2 firsts for him. That would have been my guess. But now that the Eagles have continued to be active and bringing this edge rusher, maybe it does point to them.
Maybe it was them. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really see a world in which he gets traded at this point. Kansas City, I guess, makes some sense. But
I could see a world where Kansas City pulls the trigger, though. They were rumored to be in on the Brian Burns stuff, and now Frank Clark is suspended. It would not surprise me to see them.
For 2 games.
Is he suspended for 2 games? Well, he's not that good anyway. It wouldn't surprise me to see them be a little aggressive here at the deadline. Like the Bills, their big competition, just added Von Miller and won that game in large part because they could get pressure rushing 3. It was like they can't bring in anyone of Von Miller's caliber except for maybe Burns, but it wouldn't surprise me to see them. I don't know who it would be.
That's what I'll say about Burns. That's what I'll say about Burns is like he is not unmovable. But truly, honestly, the Panthers are perfectly fine with keeping him. They don't really want to trade him, but they realize if one of these teams is going to send some like panic offer and we can avoid paying him and get like, I guess, more than 2 seconds, then yeah, it's like I'm going to do
2 firsts,
that.
Right?
He's 2 firsts.
2 firsts, I mean. 2 firsts, I mean.
Second time, bro. It's 2 seconds.
That is the second time I said that.
We just got the trade offer wrong this whole time.
But yeah, I don't remember what I was saying.
I don't think I would have traded I mean, what did Jamal Adams net? Was that 2 firsts?
Yeah,
it was, right. And I think Jamal Adams was. I mean, I get that he hasn't been great on the Seahawks, but I thought he was like better on the Jets than Brian Burns is on the Panthers. Like that trade made more sense to me. I don't know. That 2 firsts is a crazy amount for a defensive player. I'm surprised they turned it down if that report was accurate. But you saw what he did versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You saw what the defense did versus Tampa Bay. Again, like this, you saw what they could do with PJ Walker playing like a decent quarterback. If Bryce Young can just play like that all the time, what is the offense? What does the team look like? How close are they? Right. So I think like looking at that game and saying like, man, if we could get a quarterback who can just consistently play like that, we can put up 24 points a game and have a good defense. And so I think that like, I get the Panthers like keeping the nucleus together. And, if you're smart, that wide receivers are not, or running backs aren't crazy valuable. So let's move on to, I guess, another wide receiver, which is Jerry Jeudy. And I just want to talk to you about him because I think that Jerry Jeudy's not that good. I think Jerry Jeudy is one of the most overrated players in the league. I always see people like, oh, he's such a great route runner. Jerry Jeudy is a TikTok social media route runner to me. Like so many of his route running highlights are during drills and like warm ups where it's like, holy cow, look at this. He has some crazy releases that take like 2 seconds at the line of scrimmage, but that guy slips and like stumbles and falls down on routes so often. I think he goes like so hard with it sometimes that he just like kind of falls over. And he has no hands. He can't catch. He hasn't been able to catch ever in his life. Like at Alabama, it was a weakness. His rookie year, it was a weakness. People thought he fixed it his second year, but in reality, they just moved him into the slot and just gave him a bunch of like easy, like simple like drags where he didn't really have to track a football. And like even then there were times where he was like fighting the football, and then this year he's been like stricken with drops. Like he is like Deontay Johnson at best, at like absolute best. That guy is Deontay Johnson, and he's like I think like 60% of the player that Deontay Johnson is right now, like 50. He's like a mid wide receiver 2 right now. He's not like a good one even at this point. So I don't know. This has just like sealed the Packers trading for Jerry Jeudy, but like I think that guy is.
You think the Packers are going to trade for him because he's bad?
The Packers always do what I don't want them to do. So, like, yeah.
I think that's everyone's favorite team. Everyone's favorite team never does what they want them to do.
I don't know. I feel like
unless you're an Eagles fan. If you're an Eagles fan, they will always do what you want them to do.
I don't know. I always feel like I always give bad grades to the Packers. Like every single year they draft someone that I like specifically mentioned I don't want them to draft. Like like Eric Stokes last year. And a lot of times they prove me wrong. Like Eric Stokes is fine. But like this year, Christian Watson was like, I was adamant. Like do not like anyone but him. Devontae Wyatt, another guy. Like do not draft Devontae Wyatt. Those were like 2 guys on my list. It's like do not draft them in the first round. What did they go out and do? They draft him anyway. Jordan Love. Do not draft Jordan Love. Do not draft him. I had like tweets like this guy stinks. Do not draft Jordan Love out of Utah State. They draft Jordan Love out of Utah State. At least with like the Browns, like obviously the Watson move was pretty horrific. So yeah, you can relate. The Watson move was pretty horrific.
I'm like, are you?
But I feel like most teams don't. Most teams do not like consistently draft players that I. am like, there is no team that have drafted more guys that I do not like than the Green Bay Packers. So I don't know. This is insured it, but I don't like Jerry Jeudy. I think that he's a little bit more. The idea of him is a lot better than the actual player at this point. But he's obviously pretty frustrated with Denver.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if they moved on.
I mean, the Broncos have to do something. That the offense has been really stagnant and bad for large portions of this season. I mean, I would almost think that they need to be in a contention to bring in another receiver more so than to send one away, even if Jeudy is a little bit frustrated.
And Jeudy doesn't work with Wilson. That's my other thing. But go ahead, Matt.
Well, you just know he's not good because he's a young receiver, and if you're saying they need a receiver, and if they trade him away, then it's like, well, fuck. That means he's not. If Jeudy was some great receiver, they just wouldn't trade him.
Yeah.
Yes, and he doesn't work well with Russ, especially. Like Russ is just not a guy who's going to target. Like Cortland works with Russ. Like Cortland Sutton works better with Russell Wilson than Jerry Jeudy does. Tim Patrick, when he's back, like that's more of the Russell Wilson type of wide receiver. And I think like Jeudy with I think it was easy to see another kind of disappointing season coming with him just because of the play style doesn't totally mesh with him and Russell Wilson. So you've, like it or not, Russell Wilson staying on the team. And if Jeudy is frustrated and the play styles don't quite gel, like, yeah, he might be someone worth moving. And again, we could have these same conversations. Like he could go to the Packers, but I don't know if they'll gel fast enough, especially Jeudy, who is very frustrating because you can give him a great throw and he'll drop it anyway a lot of the time.
Hey, you know what? So, that's the kind of guy that's going to end up in Baltimore. Jerry Jeudy is the kind of guy that's going to end up with the Baltimore Ravens.
We'll see. They could use some draft capital because of all the draft capital they spent on Russ. And if there's some team out there who really believes in Jeudy, and he does have some good moments, like he definitely flashes, but like if someone was out there willing to give me a second round pick for Jerry Jeudy, I would take that if I was the Broncos. I would definitely.
You know what? No. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna call the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're gonna say, "Hey, listen, you have Jalen Hurts. We're gonna give you Jerry Jeudy. They played together in college. They got the chemistry, and then you have 2 Alabama receivers, and then you have the guy that used to throw to Jeudy in college. I think that could be kind of magical."
Magical, maybe
magical. He probably wouldn't even. He wouldn't even. I don't know if he would ever see the field. Like Quez Watkins might be better.
I don't know if I go that far, but
hey, Quez Watkins got some burners on him though, and they got the Oregon hurdler.
No, they don't. They cut him.
They cut him? I thought he was still on the practice squad.
Maybe he did, but I don't know. And we talked about trade destinations: Seattle, Green Bay, the Giants. The Giants are a team I could maybe see taking a chance on Jeudy, just because he would be like far and away the most talented player on that roster. Like I guess I wouldn't hate that, and like kind of trial by fire. Like let's see him as the number 1, give him that opportunity. I have no idea, but I could maybe see the Giants doing it, like you said, Matt, just because they need talent. Like Jeudy is not talented. The guy can get separation. He's capable of it. He slips and falls more than I would like to see, but like he can run some good routes, and his hands are inconsistent, but he is good in the open field. So it's not like he's completely worthless. I just do think that he's overrated, but the Giants could use some talent, even if it is overrated at that position. So wouldn't be shocked to see something like that. But yeah, I don't know. We've kind of already talked about all these wide receiver destinations. I'm trying to think of somewhere else.
So it pretty much sounds like Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy are both going to end up with the New York Football Giants. That's yes. The lock here.
If you watch football, you need Fubo TV. Fubo TV gives you complete coverage of college and pro football with NFL Red Zone plus games in 4K and no extra charge. Over 100 channels of live sports and entertainment for a fraction of the price of cable. Watch on all your devices and never miss a game or an episode of your favorite shows with included cloud-based DVR. Plus, there's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. Right now, you can try Fubo TV free for 7 days and get 15% off your first month. Just go to FuboTV.com/stayhot. That's FUBOTV.com/stayhot.
I mean, we can talk about Bradley Chubb if you guys want, or we can move on.
I think he's playing well this season. I don't think you trade him away if you're Denver. I think that the Denver defense is just capital B balling right now. I mean, they've been fantastic. Yep. Like if Bradley Chubb has earned a real contract, or if Bradley Chubb, you want him to be your number 1 going forward, I think that's totally valid. Because if you were to trade Bradley Chubb away, like Baron Browning is nice, but and Randy Gregory is nice, but Bradley Chubb is kind of the big name there. And all of a sudden you take away the 1, like you're kind of not back to square one, but I just don't see the use with if the defense is balling, trading away pieces of the defense. Like they need to fix the offense. I think they need to fire the head coach, but I think they should keep the defense as intact as possible. I don't know if
unless there's a legitimate plan. Unless there's like a plan associated with like you're giving up Bradley Chubb with the intention of bolstering up the offense because of it. But
or if you get a crazy offer for him, I don't know. Like if you get the Brian Bird 2 first-round picks for Bradley Chubb, like okay, I'll start to think about it. But you don't move Bradley Chubb just for the sake of moving somebody. I think like I don't think they should be a complete fire sale right now, because I think with some better coordination on the offense, and I think that they have the talent to turn things around relatively quickly. And you just made this trade to be contenders. Like you're kind of stuck attempting to be that, I think, like for better or worse. So I don't like that trade, but
I don't know. It'll happen. I mean, what tier of pass rusher would you put Bradley Chubb in?
Probably that Brian Burns tier. I think like a fine number at the way he's playing this year. I would, he's kind of tapped into that potential that we saw the rookie year. And then he's kind of been injured these past 3. But I mean, when we've seen him healthy, I think he looks like a fine number 1 and a great number 2, if like the way that he's been playing. So I put him in that kind of Brian Burns-esque kind of tier, maybe like a Zadarius Smith type of tier, like not a centerpiece to a defensive line, although he may be the best player on a good defensive line right now, but it is very deep. I think of him as like a fine number one, a great number two, not a great number one and not a bad number two or a fine number two, but like in that Brian Burns type of tier. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's fair.
I might disagree. I think I would trade him.
Oh,
you would?
If you got 2 first-round draft picks, that is like.
Oh well, yeah. If you get 2,
if you get 1 and anything else, I probably would do it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Definitely. So you would. I think I would not pay a guy. So he's been good his rookie year, but he's been super injury prone, and he's a tier 2 pass rusher. So you're gonna have to pay him huge money. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not really like a contender right now. So you're just so maybe you kind of play the future card a little bit.
It depends on the offer. If I can get a pick in like the top half of the first round, if a team like the Rams offers their first round pick, or do they even have a first round pick? Even still, no, they don't. Okay. I don't know. They don't. So
you can get the Rams first round pick in 2030. And then
Baron Browning and Randy Gregory have had crazy high pressure rates so far. So maybe you just go with those two as your starting edge rushers, and Bradley Chubb is just, free money at this point to trade away. I guess you could look at it like that, but I do think that he has been quite good this year. I do think that he has tapped into that potential. It depends on the offer, I guess, is what I'm saying. If it's like a second round pick, it's like, I don't know.
You know what the figure was. It matters a lot on the money.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the game of the week. Honestly, I don't think there's a lot of great games this week, and you can tell there's a lot of kind of big spreads or bad games. But Theo, what do you think the game of the week is this week?
Oh man. I might say the Thursday night game, honestly.
Ravens,
or maybe it's Rams versus 49ers. I think maybe I'll say Rams versus 49ers again, because that game was close. I think we should get a heavier dose of Christian McCaffrey this time, which is exciting. Like, he was active in the last game, but there's just no way you can learn a running game that quickly and that advanced in like the 3 days that he had. And I think that this could really be the statement win for the 49ers. They're 3-4 right now. They're 3-4, and they've given up tons of capital. If they lose to the Rams and they're 3-5 and they just gave up all of that, like, that is that's not a very good like place to be, obviously. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think that is a huge game for both teams, and same for the Rams. What are they? Are they 3-4 at this point, or are they 4-3?
They're 3-3. They were on a bye last week.
Oh, right. They're on the bye. So they're 3-3. If they can beat the 49ers and get into this 4-3 type of range, and they can have answers for that defensive line, right? Because last time they just got so killed all the time against them. Like, if they can come out of the bye, look better up front, and gain this lead in a weaker division, all of a sudden you feel a lot better as a Rams fan. You feel a lot better as a Rams fan coming out of the bye, and you feel really horrible as a 49, and vice versa, right? Like, if you're a 49ers fan and you just kill the Rams again, and it's like a bloodbath up front, and the Rams offensive line just can't handle it, and you move back to 4-4 with McCaffrey back and hopefully healthy the rest of the way and active the rest of the way, all of a sudden you feel like, okay, we've got our team. We've got control. We control our own destiny. Let's go get this thing. So I think there's a lot of implications with this one. It's a rematch. I think that it's a really like halfway through the season. I don't know if it's the final benchmark for where both of these teams are at, but it's a pretty substantial one, I think, and probably the closest thing we have to a playoff game this week. So I'm looking forward to that one.
All right, valid. Matt, where are you leaning? Game of the week?
I'll say Baltimore and Tampa Bay. I think both these teams have been a little bit questionable, even though they're supposed to be top tier contenders. And I think that Tampa Bay falling to 3-5 is like a real possibility, and it would be pretty crazy for the NFC South if that happened. I thought the Ravens' defensive line did really good getting pressure on a pretty good Browns offensive line last week, and now we're talking about a Tampa Bay offensive line that's been struggling a lot. But then on the other end, the Ravens' passing offense has not been what it needs to be all the time, and their offense in general hasn't been. And Tampa Bay's defense is still pretty strong. So I'm interested to see how those teams look. I'm very worried for Tampa Bay. If they come out and lay another egg, it's kind of like, well, the offense just is not good. It's not like you're having some bad days.
Right.
Like in the Panthers game, for example, it's like, okay, they couldn't get anything going through the air. But that J.C. Horn wasn't playing. So this is Dante Jackson and C.J. Henderson locking them up. That's not good. I promise you it's not good. So if they can't, and the Ravens secondary is a lot better than the Panthers is without J.C. Horn. So I would be surprised if Tampa Bay didn't struggle.
It'll be really interesting to see how they deal, because the Browns' offensive line is good, right? They're good. They can beat the one-on-ones if they get them, but with the simulated pressures and these kind of weird, funky blitz looks, like that's kind of what was really killing Brissett and the Browns. And you don't have Ryan Jensen if you're the Buccaneers. And I think that the general cohesion of the offensive line, there was a play against the Panthers where some defensive back blitzed from a linebacker spot, got pressure on Brady, and Brady just threw up a complete prayer to Chris Godwin, who almost caught it. He led Chris Godwin, and Chris Godwin had this like diving catch. But what happened was like the guard just missed the block. He was late. He blocked Derek Brown in the center instead of the blitzing player. And then he was late getting through. And then Leonard Fournette just like missed the chip. And like those blitzes and like the general communication of the line without Ryan Jensen has been bad this year. And like that could really, against a team that sends this many kind of simulated pressures and like weird looks at you, like this could be one of those games where it's just like, oh my God, Brady has no chance. I think it could really be one of those games. And Lamar on national television, I think, has got to close games. I don't think he's been horrible this season or even these last couple of games, like throughout the entire game. But there have been times towards the end where the Ravens start to blow the lead a little bit. It's happened like 3 weeks in a row now. So can the offense like play well from the first quarter through the fourth? And can they actually like close this game without making dumb mistakes? That's what my big question for the Ravens offense.
Well, I think I'm going to go with Giants Seahawks for game of the week. There you go. Here's the
only game between winning teams this whole week. Both of these teams have winning records. It's the only one this week. Is that the only game between winning record teams? That's the only game between winning record teams this whole week, and it's the Giants and the Seahawks.
And the Seahawks. This is the best offense the New York Giants have played all season. They played the Titans week 1, who were just like Derrick Henry wasn't even on right at that point. Then they played the Panthers. Don't have to talk about that. They played the Cowboys with no Dak Prescott. Right. Then they played the Bears and they scored 12 points. And they played the Packers. We've already talked about the Packers. And then they played the Ravens, who, for whatever reason, just can't finish games on offense, like 2 turnovers in the last 3 minutes of the game. And then they played Jacksonville, who is like solid, but now they're playing Seattle, who has been probably one of the most explosive passing offenses in football. Geno's been on one, DK, Lockett, like it's all there. The run game with Ken Walker is now completely opened up. And the Giants, on the other hand, they have Saquon Barkley, who has, been, kind of heading one of the best rushing attacks in football. This could be a really high scoring, explosive game. And I think it's going to be exciting, especially, we talk about that Seahawks defense isn't great, up front. Saquon's going to be able to have himself a day. And I think Geno's going to be able to, kind of have himself a day like he's been having. He hasn't really taken a lot of steps back.
It's arguably the first time they've played like a really good wide receiving core. Like all those teams.
Oh no, not like arguably. It is.
It is. It is.
No, it is.
Like the Packers don't have one. The Jaguars don't really have one. The Ravens don't really have one. The Titans don't have one.
They have Mark Andrews, but like
they have Mark Andrews. The Cowboys definitely had and CeeDee Lamb kind of put the game on his back in the second half of that game. So this is a team that plays a lot of man coverage and has been, I think, surprisingly quite good in man coverage this season. But they also have not played wide receivers who can win one-on-ones consistently, or a core of wide receivers who can win one-on-ones consistently. And the Seahawks, they're the top offense in the league versus man coverage this season. They're the top offense in the league against man coverage this season. So this is going to be the test where my big problem with the Giants is, like, does the secondary have the horses? That was my number one concern with them. And I think this is the biggest test. And if they can pass this test, and if the man coverage can still hold up versus this unit, then I think it's really okay, they have a legit defense. Okay, this team is not just, haven't played any good wide receivers or great offenses merchants. Like, and I think the Baltimore offense is all right. But that'll be I think maybe the most interesting unit on unit battle in the NFL is the wide receivers versus the Giants defensive backs. Yeah, and
I especially think when you look at how the Giants have made big plays to end the game on defense against the Packers and Ravens. Are they going to be able to do that against Seattle? I think it'll be a really good matchup. I'm really excited for it. But to wrap things up, instead of doing the Stay Hot locks here, we're going to post our locks on TikTok. So we're going to have the graphic ready and we'll record a video and post it on TikTok. So if you don't follow us there, make sure, of course, that you are. And you will see the Stay Hot locks there. You'll see them on Twitter, of course, and you'll see them on Instagram as well. But I think that pretty much wraps things up for us. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you watch Theo's video on Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Make sure you watch Matt's newest video. And make sure you watch... Matt, what was your... I always forget what your video was on.
Dude, you'll be like... And as always, from Corn Boy, Lemon Boy, and Bird Boy...
I will drag out...
the YouTube videos, guys. Just kind of... It's a surprise. My video is a surprise. You got to go to the channel to see it.
It's a surprise. All right. And then make sure you watch my Madden Face of the Franchise video coming out on Friday. But, as always, thank you all so much for tuning in. We will catch you all on the Flippity Flop.